Okay, this is Math 31, section 2.2, and we're learning how to add integers in this section. The first few problems here, we're going to illustrate this with a number line, and if you read the directions, you're supposed to do exactly as I'm doing here. In other words, copy a nice, neat number line as shown in the examples. And we're going to be representing negative numbers like this -6 with arrows that point to the left. Positive numbers will point to the right. You always start at 0, and the first number here, -6, stretches to the left. And then from the location you just ended at, in other words, the -6, you do a +2, and the final location here is -4. So the answer is -4. Okay, the next one here is -5, so start at 0 and stretch -5, 5 spaces to the left. From that location, you go 3 further to the left. They're both negative this time. And your answer is the final location there, -8. 7 plus -5. You start at 0, 7 spaces to the right since it's positive. And from that location, you go 5 spaces to the left. And your answer this time will just be a +2. All right, that's more work than you want to do normally on these problems, but it gives you a visual picture. So on these first 3 or 4 problems where I ask you to do this, do a good job with it, and it'll hopefully serve as a mental picture when you don't do all the extra work on these next problems. All right, example D here, we're supposed to add 32 and -28. You can see that the signs here are opposites. And another one will be example G, where the signs are opposites. One's positive and one's negative. And when that's the case, you want to subtract. And so our answer is either going to be 4 or possibly -4, and we have to decide which. The way you decide is the number that's further from 0, 32. That's the one whose sign determines the sign of your answer. So it's a +32. Our answer is +4. All right, I'm going to switch to or skip to example G here. And once again, you can see that we have a positive added to a negative. So you ignore the signs briefly and subtract when they're opposites. So you get 6. Our answer is going to either be 6 or -6. So we have to figure out which one. I kind of gave it away there. But 25 is further from 0 than 19 is. So we are in negative territory for that 25. The answer is negative. So whichever of the numbers is further from 0, its sign determines the sign of the answer. All right, on example E, we have a new situation. They're both negative values. And because of that, we are going to be adding the absolute values or the positive versions of those numbers. Our answer will either be 35 or -35. Once again, you have to decide later. But we're adding because these are going in the same direction. They're both negative. Now, when you add a negative and a negative, it's like losing money and losing money. You don't gain money in that situation. It's a negative value. So 2 negatives put together with addition always gives a negative answer. Okay, 14 and -14 are opposite signs. One's negative, one's positive. So we are going to subtract, and you get 0. Now here's the only case where you don't have to worry about the sign, because 0 is neither positive nor negative. It's just 0. It's neutral. On example H, what I'm going to be doing here is collecting my positives up front. So 32 and 6. And I'm going to collect the negatives in the back. I'm just rearranging things here. And once I do that, I'm going to add the positives and the negatives separately. But by doing that, I can just add them. So for instance, 32 and 6 add up to 38. And then when you add negative 15 and negative 8, you're going to be adding because the signs are the same. You get 23, but negative and negative add up to negative. Okay, and the last stage here on this problem is you're going to be adding this positive and this negative, and so your brain, you have to switch to subtraction, and you're going to see me subtracting over here on the side. So the answer will be 15 or maybe negative 15, and we still have to decide. The one that's further from 0 is a positive value, so we get a positive answer, positive 15. Okay, for section C, we're supposed to evaluate this expression x plus y. And so I've done the same thing in my example I here. They give us values for x and y, so we're going to be, first of all, substituting those values in. For x, we're going to say negative 6, and then we're adding the y value, which is 18 in our problem. And because these are opposite signs, we're going to be subtracting. So you can see off to the side here, I subtracted. And the number that's further from 0 is at positive 18, so we just get a positive 12 for our answer. On example J, we're also adding, but this time it's two negatives that we're adding, so x is negative 16, y is negative 28. So we're adding these two negative values, and in this case you add. So our answer will either be 44 or negative 44. And since these are both negative, our answer is also negative. A negative added to a negative always gives a negative. Okay, example K here has an added step in it. You can see that it says 2 times the y there, so we're going to have to do that multiplying first. So we're going to use negative 14, it tells us, for x, plus 2 times a y value of 16. So our first step here is to multiply 2 times 16. And now we have negative 14 plus 32. So because these are opposites, you have to subtract. We'll have to do some borrowing here. And you get either 18 or negative 18, and you have to pause and just make sure you're doing the right thing here. The 32 is further from 0 than the negative 14, so the positive wins in this dogfight. 18 is the right answer. Okay, we've got an example example K here. A company whose stock prices fluctuate. They start out with a gain on Monday of $3, but then they have 2 days of losses followed by another gain and another loss. And we're going to find out the net result here. A gain is positive, and then we have 2 losses in a row here. You can see Tuesday and Wednesday. And then a gain again, and finally another loss here. So when I have a long string like this, I like to gather the positive numbers up front and the negative numbers at the back. That allows me to do the positives separately from the negatives. 3 plus 1 is 4. And when you add up those negatives at the back there, negative 1, negative 4, and negative 2, you get negative 7. And now you have to switch gears. They're opposites, so you have to think subtraction. 7 minus 4 is 3. So because the 7's further from 0 than the 4, negative 7, it transfers its sign onto the answer. So this company's stock prices actually went down $3 during that week. Okay, this is a very similar problem. What we have here on example L is a tug of war between two families at a picnic, Team A and Team B. And we're going to arbitrarily say that when Team A advances, it's positive, and when Team B advances, it's negative. And we'll see who's going to win in this tug of war here. So 6 Team A's ahead. Some of the territory is recovered by Team B. Then another advance by Team A. And then Team B takes over for a bit. And finally, it ends up with a 1-inch gain by Team A again. Once again, I like to put my positives up front. And then my negatives at the back. Sorry about the plane flying over, but I'll just pause a little bit. Okay, when you add 6, 3, and 1, you get 10. And adding all the negatives here is -7 and -5 is -12. And the negative wins in this dogfight, so you get a negative answer, and you think subtraction. So this is not good news for Team A. They actually have lost ground 2 inches on this friendly tug-of-war. Okay, last example here. We're going to start out with a temperature of -6 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a really cold day. But fortunately, it warms up 24 degrees during the day, and so we want to find out what the final temperature is. So you start with -6, and you add 24 warming degrees to it, and we want to find out where this takes us. Well, the signs are opposite, so you'll see me subtracting over here. And our answer is either going to be 18 or -18. The 24 is further from 0, so its sign transfers, it's positive, so the answer is also positive. So that does it for us for section 2.2 on Math 31, adding integers. And I hope this helps you with your homework.